Pat, welcome, mate.
Thank you, Luke. Great to be here.
Yeah, it is, and I know for Pat, he's obviously extremely humble, and I know he'd live by our sort of values and standards. But Pat won't tell you this, but he was actually an Aussie Open junior finalist. Not only just having the sports psych background, he was also a former professional player. So he was number 390 in the world, and he's worked with a lot of the leading ATP and WTA pros. He was part of the winning Canadian United Cup team last year with Felix Auger-Aliassime. I'm finally pronouncing his name right. Denis Shapovalov, obviously in Brighton Schneer. So he's worked obviously with pros. Sorry, I'm just in my room here, Pat. Our automated lights have gone on dim on me, so I'm just going to make sure we're back. He's also still plays. So I think he's the Australian over 50s champion. He's a published author. He's also he's a tennis parent like myself. Has a kid that plays tennis. I mean, he's basic dead set legend. I think probably the only thing that he has wrong with him is the fact he's a Queenslander. So,
yeah.
But no, really excited to have Pat on. So, welcome, mate. I'll throw it over to you now because I guess Pat's going to talk about those concepts for how we can really make sure that we get the most out of as tennis parents.
Great, thank you very much, Luke. And I must say it's a pleasure to be working with Voyager this year. And I know I've sort of travelled a lot and visited a lot of academies and worked with a lot of players. But also, I've never seen a session run better than at Voyager, especially when Luke's in charge. But for some reason, those sessions just run smoothly and better than any other session. So I've never seen someone as good at organising kids and motivating kids and just getting them excited, getting them passionate about playing. So one of the great things about Voyager, and as I said, I've seen a lot of different examples. So I think it's something that Luke, you do better than anyone I've seen anyway. So congratulations on how you, I guess, run your sessions and just your personality and how you relate to kids and adults. So it's great to be a part of it.
Cheers, mate. I'll have to pay you off later for that. That was nice.
No. All right, I'm gonna share my screen and we're gonna do a little presentation. And I will hopefully we'll have a look at some sound as well. That should be good. Okay, awesome. So we're going to have a look at a helpful metaphor, hopefully to understand our complicated brain, what healthy mental toughness is, and some of the skills needed, I think, to compete well for the players here, and also to parent well. Again, something that is very challenging, but something that we need to do. So again, I work for a company called Mentally Tough Tennis, started by a sports psychologist in Brisbane, Dr. Anthony Ross, and we try to help players at all levels. So from ATP and WTA players, right down to it could be sing. Yesterday, I was working with a guy in his early 60s who's had a bit of the yips on his serve and wanting to try to overcome that. Have sort of younger children who come, people who just want to learn the skills of I guess what we call healthy mental toughness. What is healthy mental toughness? Well, I would say firstly, it's sort of the ability to consistently commit to helpful actions despite challenges, and a lot of these challenges come from our own brain, our own mind. But some players can do this and still not really have what I call healthy mental toughness because they don't really enjoy it. So I would say healthy mental toughness is also the ability to mostly focus on the enjoyable parts of playing tennis and competing. Things like the feeling of hitting good shots, how good that does feel, and striving to win and improve and connecting with others, all these great things that tennis can bring us. But it's easy to lose those things, because why is that? So let's have a look. And just before I do that, though, let's have a little look just to help you parents feel a little bit better. Let's have a look at Roger Federer and how his sort of tennis parents, how his parents, dealt with Roger when he was young. Oh, sorry.
Can't hear the sound now, mate. Pat, we can't hear the sound.
Okay, sorry. Okay, here we go. That should be better now. I'm sorry.
There we go. Loud and clear.
Roger was more like a stroppy mini McEnroe than the always composed Mr. Cool we know today. His parents were not impressed.
On court, you know, if it didn't go his way, then of course he did lose his temper and occasionally throw the racket or even cried, or he was highly upset when he did lose a match. He used to, you know, he could cry for half an hour after a match, which was disturbing for parents, you know, and also behavior on court. And we were never angry at Roger if he lost a match, but we were really always angry at him because of his behavior.
He was horrible sometimes. He was throwing the racket to the net or to the back and swearing on the court. Sometimes we felt really ashamed.
He learned.
All right, so again, something that, you know, probably some of you have heard about it, but obviously, you know, Roger Federer made a big change, you know, to his I guess, the way in which he approached the mental game, and how he did that. Well, the sort of the model that we use is to imagine that your mind's made up of two parts, and you have your automatic thoughts and feelings that pop into the head and body automatically, based on what's happened to you in the past, but also the past of all our ancestors. And you know, we share some very similar traits being human. And this is, I guess, the more, you know, quite a powerful part of our brain. So, you know, even if you've never seen a snake before, most people are going to be scared if they see one because, you know, of snakes probably bit, you know, one of our ancestors in the past. And me, I get quite excited when I see a banana. And the second part of our brain is our wise mind. And this is our best self, a smaller part, and it reminds us to act in ways that align with our values, like striving to win and being fair and respectful, and all those good things that we mentioned in the slide before. And one way of looking at it, it's a little bit like the horse and the rider. You know, the automatic thoughts and feelings are like the horse. Obviously, they're stronger, they're more powerful. The horse can kind of do what it wants, but hopefully our wise mind's like the rider. And if we kind of treat the automatic thoughts and feelings well, and we know how to relate to it, then hopefully most of the time we can get that horse doing what we want it to do. And obviously, you know, Roger's parents, you know, were able to sort of influence him, as was one of his, you know, Australian coaches, Peter Carter, and he came to the realization that, you know, it was going to help him if he was able to sort of act in a different way on the court. Let's learn a little bit more about these things. If we have a look at we have a little look at that cartoon in the corner, maybe I'll ask you, Luke, what do you think that means? Okay, and have a think about what does that sort of cartoon mean to you, if you can see it.
Yeah, I'm going to get in close. It's what is it? The heart is saying, brain, look over here. And the brain is too busy. They're basically focusing on the negatives rather than on good things that are happening there.
That's exactly right. So yeah, I would say in this case, exactly there, that's our automatic thoughts and feelings. They do have a negative bias. Where hopefully our wise mind, or in this case, the heart, does want to do those good things. And I'm sure that's why you've got your child, you know, in the program at Voyager, so that they can, you know, hit good shots and improve and get better and make these connections and all these great things that we want to do. Same when they're at McDonald College, you know, that to do all those things that, you know, that will lead them to be better people and gain some enjoyment and enjoy that challenge, I guess, of learning and of improving their tennis. And so automatic thoughts and feelings, their main goals are, their number one goal is to avoid pain. So when we win a match, often the first thing that we'll feel is relief. They also like to win as well. They also want to seek pleasure. They will remember everything, but particularly painful events. They'll let you know if a painful event might be occurring. They'll tell you not to mess it up. And they'll urge you to do things to help avoid pain or seek pleasure that aren't always helpful. You know, things like tightening the arm so you don't miss, or for a parent, you know, reminding your child over and over again, come on, move your feet out there, get out there, and, you know, try to say these things that maybe, you know, perhaps don't help them to perform their best. From the wise mind point of view, it's the part that loves doing challenging things, that loves playing against, loves competing, as Luke said, loves getting out there in a match and playing someone better, or even playing someone not as good, but being able to see if we can sort of deal with that pressure of playing someone a little bit worse than us and still really play well and want to play well. The feeling of hitting good shots, of improving, of connecting with others. And for a parent, just that feeling of loving to watch your child, have fun, play well, and compete. So trying to sort of remember, this is why we're doing it. Again, because all my thoughts and feelings are so strong, they will often, kind of lead us in a different direction. And one, I like showing, players sometimes this, and I just actually just before I did a session with a top college player, and he's from Africa actually, and I said, how would you feel? And I think he's around 800 in the world. How would you feel to walk out there in front of this crowd? And he said, I'd probably cry before I walked out there. It would just mean so much to me. That thing, what would your automatic thoughts and feelings be saying if you were the parent and your child's just about to walk out into that stadium? Would it be saying things like, I hope they ate their banana, or like, I hope they don't get humiliated out there, and feel very nervous? Again, very normal to feel nervous. Nothing wrong with that. But hopefully we can focus a bit more on those wise mind things, like, they've worked hard to be here, that I'm going to really try to soak up this experience and enjoy watching my child and try to find something positive about this experience, whether they win or lose. So just trying to sort of encourage those kind of wise mind thoughts, even though, as I said, it can be difficult. The automatic thoughts and feelings that do show up, we've got anti-anxiousness, who says, don't mess it up. Freddie, frustration, will say, that's not good enough, or that's not fair. Helena, helplessness, will say, look, there's nothing I can do, so you might as well give up. And Luke named this one actually, Carlos, confidence, who will say, I can do this. And these are, as I said, these will automatically show up in our mind and body. And what we would sort of argue is that we can't really do too much about them showing up, but how we relate to them and how we sort of, our relationship with these feelings and these automatic thoughts is what's very important. And what can happen, I guess, is it's very easy to be controlled by our difficult automatic thoughts and feelings without realizing it. So for a player, the automatic thoughts and feelings might urge your attention to disappear during the point and cause you to play on what I call unhelpful autopilot, where you're sort of there, but you're not there. You're making more errors. You're playing too passively or too aggressively, or maybe acting angrily between points, cheating or giving up. And for a parent, unhelpful automatic thoughts and feelings could cause negative body language while watching, or walking away while you're watching a match, or giving negative feedback after the match when your child, he is not asking for it. And these are the things that, again, to an extent, we're all sort of controlled by our automatic thoughts and feelings. But what we want to try and do is gain some control back by continually sort of turning to our wise mind and asking ourselves, what is the best thing that we can sort of do here? So the two things I would say to try to get the wise mind and the automatic thoughts and feelings on the same page, if you think of that horse and the rider, is we need to sort of give it this consistent messaging, that for the player to remind themselves that they're grateful for the opportunity to play tennis. How lucky is it that they can go out there at Voyager, they can go to a school like McDonald College, they can show up and they can train, 12 to 14 hours a week. That is such a great opportunity, and they need to sort of be reminding themselves, just like as parents, we need to remind them also that this is a privilege. Things like, I love hitting good shots, and a match is a fun challenge. And my opponent's not really my opponent, they're my friend, because they're giving me this challenge and they're allowing me to sort of improve and to reach my goals. I love improving. I will accept any thoughts and feelings that pop into my head today. Fun challenges bring strong feelings. There's nothing wrong with that, and they can actually help me improve these strong feelings. And I think that last one's really important, that no matter how I feel, no matter how nervous or frustrated I get, I can actually still play pretty well. As long as I don't get controlled by those thoughts and feelings, I can still actually perform, and again, whether that's in the classroom or whether it's on the court, I can still perform pretty well, as I sort of gain a bit of control back with my wise mind. And oops, sorry, I'll just back it up before we look at Rafa. And we've got our wise mind messaging, and then we've got our wise mind action. So I would sort of say these are rules that, I have players make for themselves, that no matter how they feel, they try to do these one or two things. So it might be just playing with great energy and focus, or it might be playing at the right level of aggression, or between points, it might be, when they make an error, they're going to stay in neutral, which is what, Roger Federer found worked best for him. And at the end, if you've watched him play, he doesn't react at all to errors. He just, you wouldn't even know if he, most of the time if he hit a winner or made an error, because his facial expression just doesn't change one bit. And hopefully to enjoy very good shots. That's part of the fun of playing tennis. Some players like to go to the towel when they need to, or take a breath, or say a key phrase to themselves. But just get players to make a simple rule, perhaps during the point, and a simple one between the point, which I would call a wise mind or a committed action, and just try to get them to practice this, because the more they practice it, the more they start, the automatic thoughts and feelings start seeing, this is the type of person I am. I act like a professional player, and that's kind of who I am now. So if we can sort of have the consistent messaging, have the consistent actions, we start identifying ourselves as this person, as a good student or as a good player. Let's have a listen to Rafa. I think he's one of the best at it. A little bit tricky to hear, but try to, you can hopefully pick it up. Sorry.
Rafa, congratulations on your inspirational comeback. In the last 3 years, when you failed to win a slam, did you have any fears? Were you going through any doubts? Do you have any apprehensions? And could you please talk a bit about the emotional struggles you underwent that time and how you overcame that?
I have been very honest with you all the time, and I have doubts every day. It's not about the doubts. I think are good, because the doubts give you the possibility to work with more intensity, with being more humble and accepting that you need to keep working hard to improve things. So for sure I have doubts during that 3 years. I have doubts right now, and I'm gonna have doubts in a few days, because in tennis every week is a different story, and that's part of the beautiful thing of our sport. And the life is not that clear. So if you have no doubts, probably it's because you are too arrogant. I don't consider myself arrogant at all. So I think the doubts, or don't consider myself very, very good, let me work so hard during all my career, and probably for that reason I am having the success that I had.
So I think that is a great way of showing how Rafa, I guess, relates to his own difficult automatic thoughts and feelings. You would not usually call doubt a helpful thing. He does, because that doubt enables him the opportunity to work hard, probably to focus more, to prepare. So as I said, it's probably not about trying to, in our program, it's not about trying to shift our state to a highly confident state. It's more about just trying to accept the state that we have, but try and use our wise mind, to, I guess, interpret these natural automatic thoughts and feelings and use them for us, I guess, and use them to help our performance and help our behavior. And so for the parents, I would say that wise mind messaging, so important. And it's things like, I love to watch you play, so things, that Luke would be saying to his daughter is, I can't wait to watch you play a match today. There's nowhere else I'd rather be, to be sitting here and watching you have fun running around the court to play tennis. So just trying to emphasize that it's actually fun to play and compete. If they are, saying they're nervous, it's normal to feel nervous. Being nervous means you care, but you can still play well, and it's okay. These next couple, just trying to really focus on what they do well. From a parental point of view, from a brain perspective, It works so much better if we can focus on the positive with our child. So, you know, I like the way you called the score. I like the way you kept your cool when you got a bad call. If they want to talk about tennis after the match, focus on their good shots. I remember that ace you hit at tour, or that great shot you hit. Because if they can sort of replay that good shot in their mind, then it's more likely to nudge those automatic thoughts and feelings towards confidence. If we're always talking about, you know, again, I did a session with you know, yesterday with a girl, played the Australian Open Juniors, and her dad's a coach. She was saying, you know, like her dad's always going on about a forehand and how her forehand, like, she needs to turn her shoulders more. She needs to bend the knees. And, you know, the big point, she had set point in Australian Open Junior. She got an easy forehand. She heard her dad's voice in there, quick, move your feet, turn your shoulders, bend your knees. And she, of course, she snapped, you know, right into the middle of the net. And she just had these overthoughts, you know, from her dad that you know, and when we're giving a lot of, you know, what we think is constructive criticism to our child, it sort of gets interpreted by the child's brain, you know, as kind of, I guess, rejection in a way, where when it comes from a coach, from an outside source, from a teacher, the brain handles it so much better, you know. So from a parent point of view, if you can focus on almost exclusively the good, what they did well, and then that is really what will sort of nudge the automatic thoughts and feelings towards those stepping up to line and wanting to hit a good shot rather than wanting not to miss. You know, getting a short ball and not hesitating, but just stepping up there and cracking it to a target because, you know, that's what they've sort of practiced doing. Now, if your child doesn't behave well, you know, then that's a little bit different. You know, you might message that we need to go with a plan for how you can behave well when you feel frustrated. Nothing wrong with feeling frustrated. That's fine. But you do have choice over your actions. So if you're throwing your racket or if you're cheating, then it's not acceptable. And you know, we need to come up with a plan for when you feel like that. What else can you do? You know, that sometimes, you know, when I come in or your coach come in, but it could be as simple as, you know, walking away from an error, going to the back fence, going to the tail, taking a breath, and being able to sort of practice these things. Of course, you know, saying to your child, come on, let's give them, put the arm around them, let's get something to eat, you know, after a match, never fails. Wise mind actions, really important that when you're watching your child, you try to stay neutral or slightly positive. You know, nothing wrong with, you know, giving them a clap, giving their opponent a clap after a good point. But I think, you know, not going overboard, just sort of sitting back there. And again, I asked this girl, when your dad watches you, how do you like it? How do you like him to be? And she said, I like it when he sort of looks like he sort of cares, but he doesn't care too much. You know, so he's just watching me. And that's kind of, you know, how we want to be. I think we want to show our child that we love watching them play. We care about them, but we're not sort of, you know, so invested in their performance that it's going to sort of make us unhappy if they lose, you know, and it's because it's not our, even though we feel it inside, you know, it's not our lives. So we need to try to do our very best to make that a committed action, no matter how we feel. We act neutral or slightly positive when watching. Again, the second one, we only talk about tennis if our child brings it up. Very tricky for a lot of parents, and never in the car ride home after a loss. Okay, so we just try to have a relationship with our child away from tennis, where we have other interests, other things we chat about. And there's nothing wrong with, you know, so even for me, you know, if, you know, my child plays tennis, she plays the tournaments, and, you know, if she loses a match, you know, I won't be, you know, I can sort of see the things maybe that she could do better. But, you know, it's not really for me. I know if I say it to her, it's not going to help. In fact, it's just going to sort of detract from her enjoyment. So if I do have concerns, I'll talk to her coach. You know, she's got another coach, and I'll talk to him. I'll say, look, you know, I think that she needs to work on a serve, or, you know, she did this or whatever. Let it come from him, you know, because again, if it comes from me, it's only going to detract, I think, from her enjoyment and from her sort of love for the game. And finally, we can sort of hopefully give the child some responsibility.
Can I jump in? Because I think it's a really interesting point, because I mean, Pat's obviously, he's also a qualified teacher. I mean, a tennis coach. There's so many different hats. I don't coach my son either. I think that's one of the things there, and I don't talk tennis. It just, people always ask me, hey, do you coach your son? I was like, no, but when we do, we play. I think that's one of the key things. It reminds me too of something quite interesting, because I was part of a group of Australians that lived in Europe, and we had a really good team. They actually turned our program into the Australian Institute of Sport, and we had a great head coach, very reputable, former top 100 player. We also had a physiotherapist and a massage therapist. A lot of the behaviors you're talking about from the head coach, he displayed a lot of these behaviors. And a lot of us, even though he's a great coach, great scout, we actually didn't like traveling with him as much as actually the massage therapist. It wasn't for the massages, because we got the massages at the tournaments. It was more what he brought to the tournament. It was actually about having fun. He saw the positives. And a lot of my best results were around that, where I was happy. I think that's a key message here too, is just talking about the children being happy, enjoying the experience, and the influence of someone that sees things differently from that, probably that doesn't have that wise mind. It is really powerful. So I think it's a really key message there for everyone here to really understand the role that we play and how we can communicate.
Yeah, exactly. No, thank you very much for that, Luke. And yeah, totally agree. Let's have a quick listen to Andre. Okay, we're getting towards the end, and see what he has to say.
Tennis dictated.
Sorry. Yeah.
A lot in our home. I watched it affect my siblings. I watched it affect their relationship with my father. If we had a great practice, or we had a great day on the tennis court or in the tennis tournament, the house was lighter and happier. When it wasn't so good, there was a heaviness about it. My father was not in a good mood. He was sad and disappointed, and everybody was just a little bit worse off. I saw the only way to avoid that reality was to work harder and hit more balls and win more matches. And that was all part of what started my resentment for so many years. The turning point for me, I looked out the window, I saw a lot of people in the streets, a lot of cars, a lot of people going on with their lives, and I questioned, what's their life? How connected are they? Do they like what they do? Do they hate what they do? Have they found reasons for what they do? At that moment, I said to myself, what if now, for the first time, I choose it? What now if I play tennis, not for my father, not for the pressures of life, not because I have to, but because I find a reason to?
I think it's a great one of showing that, obviously for many years, Andre actually hated tennis. He got that negative feedback from his dad. And look, there's no doubt that for some very talented players, if their parents are very tough on them and they play to gain their parents' approval, they can have some great short-term success, but they'll almost never have long-term success. And Andre actually was probably one of the few who, had this short-term success, did a lot of self-destructive behaviors, if you read about on his books, hated tennis, but then somehow, found his own wise mind and found a purpose for playing. And one of the reasons, obviously, he played was to try to, help underprivileged kids. And he sort of came back on his own terms. I would say that, he went from being controlled by these difficult automatic thoughts and feelings to sort of having his wise mind, have more control and sort of play for his purpose. So
tennis.
So that's it really for me. To recap, as parents, we're always looking to sort of nudge those automatic thoughts and feelings so that they're a little bit closer to those wise mind goals and values by using wise mind messages and by using wise mind actions. So the more we can do that, it's difficult. It's as challenging for the parent as it is for the child. So when you ask your child, why do you get frustrated or yell or, or hit your racket or, why do you lose focus and lose energy? It's exactly the same, if you look at a parent just saying, why do you sort of make a face when your child makes an error or throw your hands up in the air or walk away or look tense? It's the same skills that we need, as a parent, as a player. We need to sort of be able to accept those automatic thoughts and feelings, but gradually over time, use those wise mind messages on ourselves and those wise mind actions to become the type of parent who's there to support your child, who's there to try to nudge the automatic thoughts and feelings towards enjoyment, gratitude, wanting to hit good shots, wanting to perform well, rather than, you know, wanting not to miss or not to lose. So that would be my my message to you. You can always contact me there on my email, pat@mentallytoughtennis.com, and I'll be down in a couple of weeks, I think on the 23rd of Feb to run a session there at Voyager, which I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thanks so much, Pat. It's obviously really it is really important. We know that the importance that the role that parents play, and it's some great advice. I know for some parents it might happen naturally. I think for others it's great to sort of see what they can do and either reinforce the positive behaviors or to sort of steer them in the right direction. And again, to say, because Pat is going to be on the academy on the 23rd, to have our key focuses for the term, and really excited. But if there is any questions, now's a great opportunity to fire away. You do have Pat's attention. I know we sort of said that hour, which we're at now, so feel free if anyone does want to ask anything. Again, for Jan and myself, we're always around. If there's not, again, really appreciative of obviously Maxine and Peter for your time tonight. Thank you so much. Hope you found that informative as well. Yeah, fantastic. But no, I'm happy. I'm happy. But
yes, Luke, I really did. And that concept of wise mind, I think there's some really good things that I can take away from that as well. So thank you.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Oh, we've got a question. Yeah. Yeah, Melinda, please fire away. Fire away if you've got a question there.
Sorry, I'm on my phone because I was having technical difficulties. But it's more like a comment and a question, just from, I don't know if I've got a lot of boarding parents on here, but our son boards, and it's just if you know, we were talking about nutrition and all of the things that they have to remember about equipment and all of those things. Sometimes we're not there constantly to remind them about that. So if you see ongoing patterns and stuff, it's really helpful for parents if you contact us directly if they don't know or they're not organised enough. I don't know whether that's my son, it could be, but I'm just kind of thinking over the kind of time that he's been there that sometimes that can be a bit tricky because they've got a lot in their heads without parents nagging them all the time. So if there are gaps, just if you can let us know, that'd be awesome.
100%. But I think with Rory is, yeah, he's well and truly organised. He's to me, he's doing fantastically well. So,
and I think also, Luke, that applies to any of the boarders. You know, please let us know if there's anything that you see that the boarders in particular are needing. You know, we're there to do whatever we can to give them what they need.
100% will do.
And the other thing I just wanted to ask, particularly what Pat said around the support after tournaments and after matches emotionally, that obviously when they're boarding and they're playing, the parents aren't there to kind of give them that feedback. So Pat, I'm kind of keen to hear from you about how we can potentially do that remotely, or what are ways in which, because often we get a phone call after and it's either a really happy phone call or a really sad phone call. So, you know, what kind of suggestions do you kind of have around that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, I think that, again, I think you want to be kind of, you know, led by them, and then, you know, it's like I was sort of saying, some of the questions might be if they're happy to talk about the match, and if they ring you up and they don't want to talk about the match, then, you know, don't talk about the match. But, you know, if they want to debrief and talk to you, questions, you know, like, you know, tell me about your best shots, or, you know, what did you do well? You know, try to lead them towards that. And then you can hopefully gain a little bit of self-awareness. So how did you feel? Or maybe, how did you know, what would you do differently next time? You know, is something that I think is, you know, because you're not telling them what to do there. You're just sort of getting them to reflect a little bit on their own feel. You know, how did you feel when that happened? You know, do you feel like, you know, you were controlled a little bit by your feelings, or, you know, perhaps what could you do next time if that happened? You know, if they weren't happy with their performance at a certain thing. So again, I would sort of lead them towards what they've done well, and then rather than sort of tell them what they've done badly, try to help them to sort of gain a bit of self-awareness so that they can do it. And then again, if certain things pop up, you know, like if they're saying, oh, like my forehand was crap. Like, my forehand's going so bad. Like, it just, you know, my coach changed it, and then now it's feeling really bad. Again, that's something that you might shoot off to the Luke or their coach. You know, you can say, okay, like, look, you know, I'm sure you guys will figure it out. You know, like, ask him, and these things take time. And then you might just shoot that message off and say, look, this is how he feels, and maybe can you chat to him about it, you know. So that's probably what I would kind of, those type of things would recommend.
Yeah, Luke certainly got a message off me in the past, like, help me.
Yeah.
So,
Always happy.
okay.
Always happy.
Yeah, and that information was so great, Pat. So thank you for sharing.
Nice, thank you.
Hi, Brad.
Yeah, okay, look, just a quick one for Pat. This is around social media. I know a lot of pro players, they tend to turn off access to social media during key times within a tournament. Is there general advice you give to your clients around whether social media is a distraction, whether particularly kids develop too much of their self-worth from what they see on their phones, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I remember just listening to Novak Djokovic talk about it, and as you said, he was saying, when he walks in the locker room, he sees a lot of young players on social media and on their phones, and he tries to, and he says, I do it too, but I really try to limit the times that I do spend on it. And I think, it's a huge issue because I saw a great quote the other day that says the average brain activity of the person living today is the same as someone in the 1940s, a schizophrenic living in a mental asylum. So the average amount of brain stimulus that we've got is just so fast. So it's sort of my view that this is what makes it very difficult for young people to be resilient, because they've got so much they're overstimulated. And so what I would encourage to do is try to find time when they don't have, when they do turn, less is better, I would say, again. And so it's trying to find time when there's nothing, there's no stimulus, where they're just sitting there, maybe, they're walking in nature, or going for a walk is a great activity, or they're doing some breathing, or, they could be doing something else. So I think definitely time away, because, away from devices, away from social media is really important, because otherwise, as you said, even, whether they sort of get their self-worth from it or not, and some will, some won't, but it just speeds up their mind and it makes them more distracted. They can't focus as well, in general. So there's definitely a time for it. But it's like that thing, we want to kind of use our wise mind, have a place for it, and have a rule that, okay, we do it for this amount of time, but then we put it away, we put it away at 8 o'clock or whatever it is, and then we come and do 5 minutes of breathing or do a bit of stretching or something, and then we kind of prepare for the night or whatever. So that would be my advice, is try to have the player themselves just develop a few protocols around how they use it and when they use it.
Can I just sort of jump in there for a moment, because the newsletter that's going out tomorrow to parents says exactly that. Please establish routines and agree with the children when they shut down all electronic commitment. Give them a chance to be without, because any issues we have at school, I've got to tell you, are because of social media, and it really, they're just exposed to so much negativity. So please, while they're young, some of them, your children are probably beyond this, but while they're young, establish that they put it away at 8:30 or whatever, and that's it. It's out of the bedroom. It's gone. So,
yeah, absolutely, fully agree. Yeah,
Brad, it's a really good question, because I'm not sure what the responses have been from some of the kids with our no phone policy. I've had to take a couple away when they've been trying to sneak a look, but this afternoon, Lorenzo, it was raining for our seniors, and we're waiting while Nick set up. And Lorenzo had a trivia. It was basically a tennis quiz, and I've never heard such laughter from the kid groups, how engaged they were. And I didn't know, I could just hear it. And Nick was like, what is going on out down there? And it was just seeing how they connect, the engagement. So I'm not sure if there is any sort of, I guess, moaning or whining about the fact that their phones, but just hearing moments like that just reinforces the fact that getting to switch off and have that mindfulness, it's just, and connect is well and truly worth, I guess, probably the pain points to get to that point. But no, really, really good.
Yeah, I love that rule, Luke. And yeah, that's awesome. I think that you put that in place.
Yeah, fantastic. And then for the parents, the lead coach, if there is an emergency, the lead coach will always have their phone. So there will be a point of contact in that sense. So either Jan or myself, one of the coaches, so you can connect with us. But unless there's any other questions, guys, I'd love to say thank you all so much for your time.